Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we talk about four different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And in that light, I'm always interviewing entrepreneurs, influencers, people on the cutting edge, changing the world. So today, I have Yoni Rios, and he's going to talk about mindset outwitting everything. And so we're going to talk about building business, success habits, anything related to investing. So Yanni, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Christopher. Well, Dr. Christopher. Sorry, man.
You can, all my friends call me Chris. So tell us more about how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Okay, perfect. So, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now. I've been on this maybe a little bit more since I done a little bit on the, kind of like the when you were younger, you go and knock on neighbor's door. I used to wash my neighborhood's car wash like the whole when I was like 10 to 15. So I used to be that one knocking on people's doors if they needed a car wash. And that started about 10, 12 years old. And throughout, I did the whole, you went to high school, you had everything. But my first journey started at 21. I was already a father. I became a father at 20 years old. From there, I got my first venture launched. Didn't go too well. It was in the trucking business, which I still do today. It was about a year and 6 months. We kind of had a fallout, and that comes out with who do you do business with, who are your surroundings, who's your circle of influence, and it's all correlated, connected with mind, body, soul, and I can tap into that. But fast forward 2013 is when we launched our current company, in which we pretty, you go into the first 3 years, you kind of wing it. That's really how it goes. And I talk to a lot of businesses. I talk to, I don't know, at least 10 people a day in the business spec. And that's really what it comes down. I would say 3 to 5 years until you kind of get going. After that, it wasn't until about 7 years ago that it really got probably a little bit, I would say like 7 years ago when I got serious. When I got like really serious, I pinned it down, what's working, what's not working, and we just doubled down. And then I always call it, the whole strategy, I call it, is cutting the fat. Like you cut the fat of what's not working. So you cut the fat, and then I implement what I call calibrated adjustments. So you calibrate and then you adjust what's working and do more of that. And then it wasn't until about 6 years ago where we purchased our first property. We sold it 2.5 years later. It was actually two properties in which we netted a little bit of about over like $450,000, so close to $500,000. I was just blown away. I was like, there's no way in 2.5 years I could save this money. And which it was, a little bit, yeah, it is a little bit on the management side, tenants and stuff like that, but it was actually pretty fun. I learned the ins and outs and stuff like that. Fast forward the following year, probably purchased 10 properties. The following, probably another 20. Last year did 15. The year before that did 30. Throughout the last 7 years, I've acquired and between bought and sold over 100 properties. And it was while having a full-time business. Why was this effective? Because I had two things. I had the right people, I had the right circle of influence, and one, I had the right mindset and habits. So that's just really what it comes down to. And then the last 3 years we were able to hit the seven-figure mark, which is, for someone who doesn't have a college education, barely any high school, to me it was a milestone. And then now we're developing 10 units in prime Los Angeles location. We have the whole team has 40 units in Airbnb that are mine, are only 11. But I collaborate with pretty high level individuals because that's who I want to be. So that's who I attract. That's who I behave like it. I dress like it. I act like it, and that's who I attract. And that's where I have kind of like my core values. And one of my core values is the be do have. With the be do have method. So whoever you want to kind of like see yourself being in 5, 10 years, you got to be it like it today. Talk like it. Dress like it. Behave like it. And then you got to do what that person does. And eventually, by whether you believe in the higher power, there's the universe, anything, you will have what that person has. So that's a little bit of what I've done. And now we've been coaching for the last, I would say, say like I would say close to 12 months. And I had really good success stories. So, and that's it. And I think I found so much filling and success that I want to just share it as much as possible. And that's what we started doing those real estate meetups 2 years ago. And then we had like massive success. A lot of people have, and then how I got into the medical field, I used to network a lot, networking events, right? And I ran into this guy who had 20 different clinics, and he had a lot of money parked in his, in his in his bank account, and he started lending me for me to gap. That's what we call a gap funder. I needed about 100,000 to gap to fund on a transaction. He loaned 100,000. We had a private. He earned 10% of his money, which is a lot more than what he was earning in the past. And that's what we got. And then we got to another deal, another deal, another deal. And right now we have about he has about $1 million loaned to me on different transactions, and he's pretty happy with his returns. And now we're gonna build units in Los Angeles together, because one of the things is because obviously I'm impeccable with my word. If he gives me a 12-term loan, I respect it and I give it back on time, and we built that trust. And he's introduced me to other people who have some parked money, and I just give them the best of my. A lot of the times I was like, if you can own the asset, that's a lot better. You could build a long-term wealth through owning the asset, not lending on the asset. But if you want more of an instant money, just hands off, less risk, it's better for you to lend on the money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's a little bit of what I do. And like I said, I still operate my trucking business, and last year we netted a little bit over 1 million. We grossed 12 million. So we've been on this path for a good amount of year, and it's all because you have the right people, systems in place, and you have a vivid vision of where you're going.
Yeah. Tell us about some of your daily habits. What are your daily habits to make you successful?
Okay, it's pretty simple, and don't get discouraged if you. I wake up at 3 in the morning. I'm at the gym at 3:30 in the morning, or walking my dogs at 3:30 in the morning, and it goes before obviously prayer. I journal every single day. You talk to yourself, self-talk, personal. You should always read or podcast or something like that. So I always read. I like to read a lot about Stoic philosophy. So I read a lot about Stoic philosophy. I read a lot about our body. How does our body work? Just always intentional personal development. Like, what are you inspired? I'm very inspired. I've been inspired for the last 24 months about Stoic philosophy. So that's what I read. But I read about Tom Brady. How does Tom Brady operate? Which he's one of the geniuses. Kobe, which to me he was the most influential guy in my life. I got to meet him, and you probably have seen it on one of my profile pictures if you ever walked through it. Obviously, I planned the day before. I get on a goal to drink at minimum 1 gallon of water. My coffees all are black coffee, and that's it. And my second daily habit is I don't drink or consume anything that takes me out of character, which is alcohol, drugs, overeating food, excessive carbohydrate, which it takes you out of character. If you eat a burger and a half, for instance, I don't recommend, because you're going to feel sluggish, and that takes you out of character. And it could be as easy as food, and a lot of people don't really see the impact that can do. Excessive sweets, excessive caffeine, just everything that takes you out of character. Who do you and a lot of people, we say this, I'm on this journey for my family because I love my family. And my answer to that is, like, if you do this for your family, why do you overfeed yourself? Don't you want a longevity life? Don't you want to live longer? Don't you want, when you make it to your kids, don't you want to be fully energized with them? So that's really those are my morning habits that I apply every single day.
Yeah, excellent. And what about the books that you would recommend to the
I know. Obviously, if in the medical field, that those are high income professionals, and I've met a lot of them who are not that disciplined saving their money. So the number one book that I'll recommend is The Richest Man of Babylon, which is, obviously you save at minimum 10%. Once you could apply that, you go into, higher tiers. I save 25% of my income, and that helps me to save a lot more. Once you build that habit, you can do everything else. And there's few rules books that I live by, and one of the most powerful ones that it's into my daily habits is the four agreements. Being impeccable with your word, always doing your best, never taking anything personal, and not making assumptions. Those are that's my way of living. And my favorite book that changed my life forever, which is Outwitting the Devil. That one is the most powerful book I've ever read. I read that about 10 times, and every time I pick up something new.
Why do you always push yourself?
Why do I always push myself?
Yeah.
So I believe that, I believe in God, and I believe God made myself and a twin of mine. And Ed Milet said this better, but my way of seeing it is like he made us an identical person like myself. And once I die, I believe that there's another life out there. I'm going to run into that guy. But that guy, he really tapped himself to his full potential. So I want to look at him in the eyes and say, I tapped into my full potential. And I know I have more. It's not even about money. It's not even how, like yesterday, myself and I have a 13-year-old son, we ran a half a marathon because I want to be an example to my son. I think that our kids do not do what we tell them, they do what we show them. So at least I know at least it's not a guarantee, but the odds are higher for my son to run, to be, just kind of raised by a good example.
Fascinating discussion. How can people contact you, follow you on your social media, and reach out to you?
The best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram, which is RIOS, I'm sorry, it's Yoni, YONI, Rios, my last name, 07. And then my email is riosyoni@gmail.com. I'm pretty active on both of them. I'm also on Yoni Rios and Facebook, LinkedIn. But the best way is just check in with me. I post every single day my coffee in the morning, like at 4 in the morning. I post every single day my journal, my books about Stoic philosophy and intentional personal development as well. So I'm always trying to, I'm always doing the meetups, quarterly meetups, and we're always engaging with people who want to just tap into a better environment.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, be sure to follow Yoni. He's on all of his social media. He's on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and be sure to check out, reach out to him. And all of his resources will be in the links and show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
No, man, thank you for having me. I really appreciate someone someone got some value out of it, and I look forward to just contributing to our society a bit more.